One thing I'd like to talk about is how this glaciation that covered all of Yellowstone and really much of the whole greater Yellowstone area or greater Yellowstone ecosystem, how that affected the landscape. Right ahead of us is a mid-channel flood bar that has what we could call giant ripples on it. These are spaced 40 to 60 feet apart and have 3-foot boulders on them. And this was formed by floodwaters maybe 200 feet deep that came down the Yellowstone through this area. And over on the left, there's also a landscape that's been refashioned by this flood. May have been a morainal topography originally, and then the flood came across it and swished out all the fine material and left the boulders armoring the surface. Floodwaters, we think, came down the Yellowstone, and this feature's out in the middle of the valley. The waters were on either side of it as well as over it, and swirling around and leaving these ripple-like forms. And the boulders often show a lot of signs of bashing together, where different boulders crashed into each other as they were swirled around in this torrent released by probably a ice dam glacial lake, either up in the upper Lamar Valley or in the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, or both. There is good evidence that there were multiple floods, and down here the estimates of the floodwater depth is about 200 feet. At the mouth of the canyon where the water was coming out, have an estimate of near 300 feet. Must have been a tremendous thing to witness if anybody was around to see it. And you sure would want to be well off the valley floor, because everything in its path would have been tremendously affected by these floodwaters. Here we can see the patterning here. Here's a ripple crest. Over there is another one, a third one, and then beyond that, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one over there where the probably it's a raven perched. And the boulders, they get pretty big. Here's a good sized one right over here. This one's interesting in that, let's see, maybe get on this side here. There's a nice big boulder, and these are bash marks here where corners have been knocked off as this thing was banging against other boulders in this slurry of everything from boulders to gravels to sands to silts to clays was swirling down valley, being carried by these enormous currents. Originally, these deposits were known, but they were because they had boulders and had ridges. The best thing that people could suggest was that they were glacial moraines. The boulder concentration on these ridges is considerably higher than you find on moraines. And that's because it's a water-laid deposit. There's no fine matrix between the boulders. This is boulder on boulder kind of deposit. And then their general form, their spacing. Probably the most impressive thing is the way they look from the air. And that's true also of the channeled scabland. Channeled scablands are out in central Washington along the Columbia River. And they're a part of the continental ice sheets coming out of Canada dammed a large lake along the Clark Fork, particularly in the Missoula area, and that lake was up to 2,000 feet deep. And when that lake catastrophically drained by failure of the ice dam, great floods went out into central Washington and crossed what's now called the channeled scablands. This area was eroded by these floodwaters, and in places below narrows and below canyons where these waters were spreading out again, we have similar features to this, bouldery deposits with a kind of ripple-like form. And so when that was being worked on, I was also looking at these deposits. The appearance from the air in particular is very similar. The aerial photographs of this area show this feature quite well. And I was fortunate enough to have John Sheldon, who photographed the channeled scablands, also take some nice photographs of this, showing their fluvial-like form from the air, the beautiful patterns of the giant ripples, their slightly arcuate forms, and their nice rigorous spacing. All of those things show up well from the air. And actually, if you walk around on the ground here, you can see it too. Further upstream, above the Black Canyon of the Yellowstone, there's two places these floods may have come from. One is the Lamar Valley, including the beautiful section of Lamar Valley where the ranger station is above the Lamar Canyon. And there we have good evidence that a glacier coming down Slough Creek advanced across the Lamar Valley and did dam the Lamar Valley. And so that glacial dam may be the one that failed, releasing a large lake that was in the Lamar Valley. We have quite a few places where we see deltaic-like deposits built out into the edge of the Lamar Valley, suggesting that indeed there was a lake there. Probably the level of that lake was fluctuating all the time. It was either building up, or once it got thick enough to get enough pressure to help float the ice and release the glacial dam, then the lake went down catastrophically, and then the glacial seal would have been reestablished and the whole cycle started again. The other site, it's a similar one. It's where when the Slough Creek Glacier was larger and blocked the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. And we have lake sediments in the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone in the lower part of it. And we also have evidence of catastrophic floods coming out of the Yellowstone Canyon. And we do know that there's multiple floods that occurred here, so maybe we have representatives of floods from both places that are in these deposits.